Good afternoon. How are y'all doing? We are back at the studio at Two Girls Treasure. Let me make sure I have volume turned down on one device, and let me kick over to this single camera. I'm back. All right, for the first time ever, I spoiled my shirt. I got the paint off completely, but this is an indigo dyed shirt, so apparently I just pulled all the dye out of it when I cleaned it. It's okay. I decided that since this shirt has now become part of this Gregory's catalog project, I'm just gonna stamp the bottom edges where I messed it up, and I'll paint it in, and it'll look like I bought it this way. I think it will anyway. We're going with that. How are you this afternoon? Let me kick over to comments. I have the Carter on. I did not add anything to the shoppable video on our website, but if that's where you are watching, there's a box right there that says interactive mode. And if you click that box, you can make your purchase of the products that we're working with. We've got the brayer, we have all these paint colors, and our Gregory's catalog Iron Orchid Designs paint inlay. Now, if you weren't here this morning or you are not familiar, thank you for joining me again for our lunchtime edition, our studio session 2. This is what the full Gregory's catalog paint inlay looks like when it's complete. And there's some examples down across the bottom. This is a really neat old sign. I love it. And we're gonna make our own. We are making our very own. I happen to have had a very large signboard. I'll click that out. There we go. And I'll go to our comments. I had a very large signboard. So this morning I had it based in black, so we had a clean canvas to start working with. And then I came in with our sunflower stamps, and I stamped some areas prior to laying down our colors. Now, when we lay down our colors, I laid one coat of grassland down. I absolutely love this color. It's our Rethunk Junk, part of our Inspired by Nature color series. This is grassland, and I put grassland over the midnight, but I did it with our Iron Orchid Designs silicone blades. There's a large one and a small one in the kit. These are available on our website. I did not put them in the collection still. I'm sorry, I failed to do that. But these are available for you to purchase. All you have to do is grab a set. And if you watched this morning, you saw what I was able to do with the color, spreading it out, pulling it across that black, and giving it a very naturally distressed finish all at one time. And because it was a nice thin coat, it dried very, very quickly. So we were able to go ahead and compose our images. I wanted to make sure we composed where we were putting the stamps, where the paint inlays were going to land once we had all of our colors on, and we're gonna work in sections. If you can see, I have our green tape down top and bottom. That will give me a guideline for where my sheet needs to lay down. Now, before we start, I want to cover a couple of things that I know have been issues for users of paint inlays, including myself. I'm talking more about myself here than I am anybody else in the world. Paint inlays are not hard to use. It's the idea, it's wrapping our head around how they actually work that makes it hard for us to understand. They are not hard to understand. This is a sheet with a design on it, and the design is impressed on this sheet in paint. It's almost like a silk screen, but not. It's not a transfer, but it's an image. And through transference, through the mediums that we use, your image comes into your substrate, your board, your material. So it's really not hard to do. The concept is hard to grasp. It really is an amazing concept. And I love to show how we can make it work. Now, the second thing that I know folks are struggling with, me, is that if you read the instructions, these were designed to be used with a chalk style paint. Not a mineral based, not an oil based, not a latex base, not an acrylic base with a resin additive like Rethunk Junk. These were not designed to be maximum with our paint. However, after being salty about these when they came out, I found the way to overcome the challenge of using these with a non-chalk based paint. The most important thing to remember about paint inlays is they were designed to be naturally distressed. If you get wrinkles in your paper when you get ready to lay it down, it was designed to accept those wrinkles. If when you lay your image down and then you peel it up, you don't get a full coverage image, it was designed to look distressed and aged naturally. Part of the problem that I have experienced when we have utilized paint inlays or transfers, when we've used transfers and we've tried to distress just a tiny area, I found that we end up distressing a lot of area that we did not intend to distress. With your paint inlays, you actually get an area that you can, it's distressed when you're done. So you don't have to sand anything else. It takes a whole step out of the process. It's just different steps that you use to accomplish the same look. I like it better because even though I'm not a distressing kind of person, the way this looks finished is so amazing. You don't want to miss out. Don't be scared of using paint inlays. Purchase one that has fewer sheets, that has pieces to it, that you can practice on smaller sample boards. You can practice on smaller sample boards anyway, because when you're finished using this, when I finish using this Gregory's catalog today, these pages will still be usable up to 3 times, I have found, with Rethunk Junk paint. I'm gonna grab my scissors because I do have a cut line, and we wanna make sure we have that cut line clean. And what I mean is this, let me show you. Right here on this edge, do you see the space between the letter and the edge of the page? That's your cut line. In the manufacturing process, they cannot bring this image all the way to the side of the page. It just won't work. There has to be a cut line. Where this lines up with your very next sheet, you have a cut line. You want to go ahead and trim this out so that when you put these two together on your surface, it's absolutely lined up perfectly. And that cut line will prevent that from coming together well. So we want to go ahead. Now I'm going to try to tip you again. Pray with me right this second. Please, baby Jesus, don't let my camera fall over this time. I'm going to tip you down so that you can see more of what I'm working on. I don't dare tip you more than that. This is an iPad, so it's heavy, and we have just not overcome the challenges that we've had lately with our Switcher Studio. I'm going to ease this out, and I'm going to grab my brayer. We'll need a brayer and our Mr. Bottle. I have some really thick paper towels that I'll use as my tamping cloth. I'm gonna use my silicone blades and a combination of colors. I'm going to use my Rustic Clay by Rethunk Junk by Laura. I'm going to use my Marigold. I also have Sahara, or Sahara, however you prefer to pronounce it. And this is Olive. This is one of the fall 2022 color recipes. This is 50% Midnight, 50% Marigold. I mixed it up in a mason jar, and yes, it has stayed usable for an entire year on display, and it is a beautiful color, and I believe we're going to need it on this project, so I went ahead and I drug it out. I'm going to clean the rim so that it doesn't glue itself shut, and let's get started. I hope you're excited about this. I am. So let me trim my line real quickly. Hey Brian, thank you for stopping in to visit today. I appreciate seeing you. If you're watching this second studio session, thank you for coming back in with us this afternoon. I came in live this morning. I was a little bit late. These cameras, I swear, the technical issues are playing the devil with my life, and I just couldn't overcome the technical issues with the second camera. So we're only using one. Trim that cut line. It's just a little sliver, but that little sliver makes all the difference. And I'm going to trim it one more time because I'm not quite close enough to my edge. I'm right-handed, so I can't flip it upside down. My brain won't cut like that. So I'm going to trim this just against the edge of that black paint on the other side of the sheet. And you'll know when you look at your paint inlay, the very vivid color is the side that goes down in the paint. The other side has your grid lines, so you can line your sheets up straight. It's not a difficult process to do. Get your cut lines straight, and then do one area at a time. Patience on a project like this, especially because we're going so big, patience is definitely a virtue here. This is something you're going to really have to be patient, pause, think through, compose your layout, and think about how all of your elements will affect any of your others. All your colors, your design, your stamps, and your inlays, because they will all affect each other. Now I'm going to lay both of these I'm going to lay these here. I'm going to go ahead and do the cut line on these two real quick. And you know what? Let me show you one more thing. As you get into the center pages where it goes into the continuity, you have a cut line on both sides of the page. So let me go ahead and do that. I don't want to do part of this bottom side and then the next. I want to do the entire bottom side all at one time to maintain continuity in the colors I'm going to lay down and in the pages themselves. Because if I don't maintain the continuity, then when I'm done and I lift my pages, I'll have lines that I don't want. And I want the lines across from one page to the next to be nice and smooth. It's not easy to do, but it's also not impossible. Patience is critical when you're doing a very large media. You can bobble on a small piece and compensate for it. When you bobble on a large piece, it is like a glaring mistake. And even though we all make mistakes, and even though there are ways to overcome those mistakes, we don't want them to be glaring mistakes. So let's be especially careful. Let's hit our cut lines like we should. And definitely we want to take pause when we get ready to lay these down. We want to make sure first that we have the pages in the right order. Because once you lay this down into the paint, you won't be able to do anything to correct yourself until after it's already done. You can fix it, but not until it's already impressed in your paint. So take the pause at the beginning, take the time, and give yourself the patience you deserve. This one's handy because the cut line on the side is right on one of the grid lines. So that went well right there. Now I've been studying how some of the other stockists, Iron Orchid Design stockists, handle some of their concerns with wrinkling. And my dear friend from Hyannisport, you all know her, Linda D'Antonio from Seaporium, gave me the best advice that I have gotten so far, and that is to dampen the sheet before I lay it into the paint, and that will actually help minimize some of the wrinkles. At that point, I believe we're going to have to be very careful about smudging this carrier sheet, because as you've heard me say before, this carrier sheet is paint and it is active until you seal it. So you don't want to smear this when you lay it down. All right, let's make sure we have these in the right order, right side up. We do. All right, I'll lay these to the side, and let's do this. Are you ready? Because I have all kinds of paint out that I want to utilize. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna use a combination of colors across the board with our blades. I'm gonna do it a little bit thicker than I did this morning because we want enough of a base for the sheets of inlay to lay into wet paint so that they will absorb some of the product that's on the carrier sheet and lay down onto our substrate, onto our wooden board. This is a beautiful old vintage signboard that nobody in the world loves except me. And we're gonna make it over. It deserves to continue to live. It has a beautiful shape to it. Look at that finial at the top. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I wanna highlight that. I'm gonna have to bang a can of paint. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Paint can opener right here on the other side of the table. This is so large, I actually have had to put 2 tables together. So this is the perfect inlay set for this particular paint inlay. I think this one and the Queen of the Nile are the largest paint inlay images. There we go. We've got that marigold open. All right. 2, and this is a brand new container of rustic clay, so it will just pop right open. No worries. Oh, look at that luscious color. Look at that. It's so beautiful. All right. I am going to, I'm looking for my apron, y'all, because I did wreck my shirt this morning. It's okay. I'll fix it. But at this point, I do want an apron. And I just don't even see my apron anywhere. It's okay. It's okay. Miss Judy, thank you for coming back to join me. Pray for my shirt. Prep. Me and Prep and Paint. I spoiled it. I'm going to stamp it and paint it and make it look like it was intended to be part of this project, since it decided to get all in it. All right. We're going to lay these down. I've got a couple of clean, there we go. I've got a couple of clean paper towels so that I can wipe it clean in between. I've got my alcohol wipes. I've got a few of those out. Let's do this. I'm gonna make a mess. I'm gonna put a little stream of rustic clay here and here. That's a little stream, y'all, it really is. All right, there we go. Wipe that clean, set it to the side, and cap it. There we go. I'm gonna take my Sahara and I'm gonna put it in as well. It is a different color than the base, which is Grassland. We need a little bit in here. This, I have found, is the simplest way to get the paint where you need it to get started with the blades. Because with the blades, you just don't need paintbrushes. You really just don't. I'm gonna put just a little bit of marigold in here. I want that lighter yellow. It's a different shade than the Sahara. Definitely a deeper, richer shade than our sunflower. But I'm gonna go ahead and move these. I'm not gonna mix them. And don't panic, because I just covered over my stamped sunflower. If you were with me this morning, you know that is very intentional. I expected that some of the paint was going to impede on my stamps, but I wanted to go ahead and lay the stamps out before I started this morning, before we got to this point with the paint inlays, because I wanted to make sure that I had my composition correct when I started. Now we've got a good base of color. Let me move this a little bit more. I want to make sure we've got a good thick layer everywhere the paint inlay is going to go, because that's what's going to create the bond between this substrate and the carrier sheet. Now, before this gets dry, lay that right there. Let's add just a little bit of our olive for that mossy finish. Just a little is all it's gonna take. And we can heavy up on one side. The beautiful thing about the blades is that you can make the paint really change everywhere you put the paint. And you get that multi-dimension finish without having to layer color over color over color and brush it and wait for it to dry. That right there, that's what I visioned. Let's see if we can make this vision come to life now. All right, I have never sprayed the backs of these sheets before, but today we're gonna do it. So, on the advice of my dear friend Linda, who I trust implicitly, let's try this. Let's see if it makes the difference in our layout. Once you lay it down, it's there. Just lay it in. If you need to, straighten it out. Here we go. Oh yeah, you know what? That made a huge difference. I'm gonna spray the back of it again. That was not easy. I'll be honest about that. That was not easy. But let's put a little bit of damp on there. And I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm not gonna spray it yet. Let's go ahead and spritz the back of this one. It does make the sheets a little bit harder to hold, I'll be honest, because now they're fluffy. But it really made a difference. All right, stop spraying. There we go. It really made a difference when I was laying it down. I feel like I need 4 hands to do this right now, though. Let's see. I'm gonna go this way. I'm gonna stand to the side because I want these to line up. I'm gonna lay it right beside the other one. And I got the D lined up. Come on now, there we go. All right, lay it down in, and there we go. I'm gonna leave that be. Spritz it. You wanna damp the back of it. You wanna make sure you give it a little bit of, ooh, I've got that in the tape. I sure do. That won't be any good for anyone. Let me get the tape out of there so that doesn't create a problem. Let me cut this. I think I went at an angle with that instead of straight, but at this point we're committed to it, so we're gonna take it. We're gonna take it. It's okay. This is supposed to be an old vintage sign, and we're gonna make it look like that. It'll be okay. Spritz the back of this sheet. This is the grid line side of the sheet. All right, we're gonna try that. The grid line side of the sheet, and I liked standing to the side. I'll have to stand to the bottom to line this up. There we go. That didn't line, it lined up at the top, but not the bottom. Yeah, you need 4 hands to line this up. But there we go. That's in. Let me straighten this. That didn't go the way it was planned. Let's do it again. Let go of yourself. Paint against paint is never a good thing. 4 hands for this one. Yeah, I'm not sure that I care for it like this. I'm gonna do the last sheet not wet, because this has the potential to be a disaster. I don't care for this at all. All right, Linda, I love you. I don't know how you do this unless you have someone else in the studio with you. And my Tay is on the way, but she is not here yet. And this just, yeah, we're not gonna wet the sheets like that anymore, because that does not lay down straight. All right, let's try it again. All right, that was better. That was better. But that really does need more than just my 2 hands to happen. That was crazy. And that really did have the potential to ruin the entire visual. We have one more section. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the tape, because now we have our grid lines on all of our sheets lined up. So putting the last sheet in should go smoothly, but we are going to do this one dry because I did not like the lack of control over the wet sheet. That was hard right there. Harder than it should have been. So we'll lay that in. See, that laid down just fine. I'm gonna smooth it with my brayer, which I find works just fine. If you're gonna do it with the brayer, bray it before you damp it. Try not to roll back and forth. that will prevent some of those wrinkles. If you just roll in one direction, that'll prevent some of those wrinkles. That didn't wrinkle at all. So I get the whole idea behind dampening the sheets first, but you lose a lot of control, and that defeats what you're trying to accomplish. At least for me it does. If you're working by yourself and you don't have an extra pair of hands to help you lay that down smooth, that could be a catastrophe. This paint and lay set is absolutely gorgeous. It's going to be an old distressed finish, so I don't mind some of the imperfections as I'm laying it down, but I sure want my letters to be lined up. I'm going to roll in one direction. This is damp now, and it's laying in the paint. So this is absolutely, I'm going to roll forward with this. This is absolutely subject to smear, even though all we're doing right now is rolling it out with a brayer. It's still subject to smear. So do it gently, smoothly, and carefully. Now I'm going to damp one of my paper towels. Only reason I'm using this and not a cloth is that these are nice and thick. They take the water well, and they don't rip apart very easily. I'm just going to take this, it's damp to the touch, and I'm going to tamp down, gently tamp down on each section. And this helps move that image into the paint, into the wet paint underneath it. I'm not going to turn the fans back on. I don't want this to dry too quickly. I really do want it dry because I really do want to see how it turns out. Do you? I really want to see how it turns out. I think this is going to look so good, and the colors that were in my head are now on this surface, and they look so good together. Y'all, I've been planning this for some time. I have been waiting for this day for a while, and I'm so excited about having the opportunity to do this and come to you with the second studio session. I don't normally have the opportunity to come on live twice in one day. So I'm really thankful. But I want to make sure this turns out exactly the way, or close to the way, I visioned it would. So let me take a moment. I'm going to pause, and I'm going to wipe the paint off my blades. Even though I'm going to use the same colors, I want to go ahead and wipe this off so it doesn't dry. And see, when it starts to dry, it gives you that little line. These silicone blades are not expensive, but they're not cheap. And these are tools, and I was always taught to take care of your tools. Clean them up before you put them away, or use them for the second time. That way, the next time you use them, they are good and clean, and that's not a bad thing. So let's wipe this clean as well. Let's get that dry line off of the silicone. Plus, if you were using different colors, you wouldn't want your original colors to impede. So just wipe them clean. And if you need to, grab another cloth and wipe them off again. Wipe them dry, and they'll be good to go. All right, silicone blades are clean. I'm gonna wipe my hands off because paint all over my hands. And we're gonna let this dry naturally. I'm gonna spin the board around, and we're gonna go again, but we're gonna do it from the top down this time. So let's spin the board, and let's repeat this. Are you with me so far? This is a great big signboard. But This is gonna look so beautiful in someone's garden shed, she shed, on the wall over your wicker sofa in your glass room. I think it would be absolutely beautiful. Where'd we go? What are we doing? There we go. Open back up. There we go. Yeah, the camera continues to blip. I'll move that. There we go. Now, first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna trim our lines, stack our pages, and then we'll lay down our color. I have sunflowers already stamped at the top of this, so we will, once we finish, once all the paint is dry, we'll just take our black ink and our sunflower stamps and we will re-stamp over our sunflowers. I went ahead and stamped them first this morning because I wanted to make sure that we had our composition laid out exactly like we wanted it. So after the paint dries, we can lay them back down. The mask set that comes with the stamp set may not be exactly what I need. We found that this morning because I couldn't lay the mask set down on the side that I really needed it. So I will compensate for that by creating a mask on a sheet of paper. You can stamp on your paper and then cut it to the size or the area that you want to mask. And then you will have created your own mask and the world will keep turning perfectly and you can mask your work so that you don't have muddy images. So you have clean floral images without the lines impeding one over the other. And if you missed the masking, if you're not sure how to do it, if you're local and you want to, on Mondays, please feel free to join us for our studio sessions on stamping. We will do a demo and show you how to do it, and then we'll let you sample so we can teach you how to do it. And if you love the demo and the sample, you can come back for the second studio session, just like we're doing right now, and you can do a project. We are not going to do a studio session with a project this big. This is just for the cameras and for my satisfaction because I've waited so long to do this. I really have. I've waited so long to do this project. But the studio sessions will be open to the public come September. Right now it's by reservation only, so if you're interested in coming in next Monday for a stamping demo and sampler, let me know. Just message me or call the store and we'll make those arrangements with you. There we go. Also in September, if you would like to join us in the studio for Coffee and Create on Tuesday mornings, you can. You'll be able to. All right, I do, because this is the first page, I really don't have to worry about the cut line on this side, but I do need to worry about the cut line on this side because this is where the images go one up against the other. So let's go ahead and trim this down all the way. And then we will be ready to put the colors back on, spread them using our Iron Orchid Designs silicone blades. We'll get the color and the finish that I have dreamed of. It will be amazing. I am very excited to finish this. I'm very excited about where we are with this right now. So I'm going to lay these to the side and let's lay down some color, y'all. Let's get this rustic clay on first. We don't want too much, but we want enough. We want a nice base of color so that when we get ready to lay that inlay down, we have a good base of wet paint. And I think this is the order in which we went. I'm going to go ahead and put down our Sahara. I'll start on this side. You always get a blob on the first run. There's some Sahara. I'll put some in here. There we go. That's a good finish. That's a good finish right there. Better use my next one. I'll wipe that in. All right, then our marigold. Let's put some marigold in here. The higher up you go, the thinner the line you'll get. There you go. I'm going to put a little extra right here. I love the way that marigold worked with these colors. There we go. Done and done. All right, a couple of more wipes so my fingers are clean. And in the paint we go. All right, let's do this. I'm going to continue to use my small. That's how I started. That's how I got the colors to pull across the board. This is a solid wood sign board. Here we go. Oh, it's so pretty. These are beautiful color combinations. Perfect for the time we're in. Our second summer. Not quite in fall, definitely in the hottest part of the year in South Carolina. I know everywhere. I heard Sherry MacArthur yesterday. I was watching her replay. She's so hot in St. Augustine, Florida, Arizona, Texas. My goodness, we're just lit up. We're just lit up with the heat. We have a lot of humidity and some strong storms coming through because of it. All right, let me get some toward that side. Let me come on down a little bit so we have a meeting of the minds right here in the middle. I'll just pull this on down. There we go. The beauty of the blade is the movement you can achieve. Now I'll set that down. And let's get our olive, which is our fall color recipe. 50% Cloverfield, no, 50% marigold, and 50% midnight. That's what I meant to say, midnight. Absolutely gorgeous black finish, but when you mix it with yellow, you get olive. You get this beautiful olive that we're going to blend in right here. Just pull gently, move the color where you want it. You've got a lot of paint product by the time you get to this part. Make sure you spread it. Make sure it has a good full coat where you're going to lay your inlays, because your inlays are activated by wet paint. So we've got a little bit more right there and done and done, just like that. All right, lay that down and here we go. Are you ready? Let's start at the very beginning. We're gonna come over here. We have our line at the top, so we've got a guide. I've got a couple of bubbles right there. We don't want any paint bubbles. No paint bubbles. Because we have the grid lines, we are able to guide our first page down in line with the bottom page. I'm gonna lay that down, smooth it. I'm gonna leave that for right this second. Let's go ahead and lay all the pages together. I need that edge down into the paint, so let's tamp that down. And let's get this one lined up with that one. The grid lines guide us into the right spot so that we have a nice lineup of our lettering. There we go. The image will come together. And let's go again. This is our next section. Watch your grid lines when you get ready to lay it down. And once you commit, let it live. If it's not perfect, let it be imperfect. Let it be imperfect. It will be okay. And let's lay our last sheet down. Line up those grid lines. Lay your sheet down gently. I'm gonna pull that in, pull that out, tamp that edge down, and there we go. We're in. Whatever it is what it's gonna be. All right, now, all at one time, I will go ahead, since my mister loves to spray continuously, I'm gonna go ahead and I should have braid those first. This is what happens when I'm in the studio unsupervised. We're gonna do this. We're gonna roll over. That's just a little bit of paint. It's not gonna damage anything because it's on the back side, but I do wanna wipe it off. It just squished up. It just squished up through the bottom, but we'll go ahead and we'll braid this to minimize those wrinkles. We've got some. They're beautiful. We've earned them. And it gives us our distressed and aged finish. That's what we're gonna keep telling ourselves. Don't let anybody tell you anything differently. There we go. All right, we are lined up, we are in the paint, we are braid in, we are dampened. This is a crazy concept, isn't it? But it's gonna turn out crazy beautiful, especially with these fall foliage colors. Let me grab a paper towel. Let me gently dampen my paper towel. I've got a lot of water on the sheets. The second set of sheets, the top layer, I really put a lot of water on. So just gently, I'll start down here. Just tamp your images gently so that they will rest a little bit deeper in that wet layer of paint underneath, because that wet layer of paint underneath is what is going to absorb a layer of the paint off this carrier sheet. And as it dries, it pulls these images down into the paint, and these sheets will be reusable. The paint inlays are an investment. They are not inexpensive, but they are an investment in your ability to create the same or similar images repeatedly. Because you can use them again, once we pull them off, we will lay them out to dry. Once they're dry, we'll use those protective cover sheets over them. And we'll put them away for the next time. And the next time we might cut them apart and use them in segments rather than as an entire image. This is what your Gregory's catalog will look like when it's dry. I am so excited to see this bottom section turn shades. How do you know when it's ready? Well, it's all an experiment. You really have to play with the paint inlays. You really have to take a smaller piece, take a sample board, and try it to see what works with your paint brand, with your technique, your way of doing this. Because every single one will be different and every single one will be unique, just like you. So don't be afraid to experiment with the paint inlays, with your colors, with your brayer, with your silicone blades, and definitely don't be afraid to experiment with any combination of colors that make you happy. This is going to dry a little bit more. When we see a color turning back toward the white, then I will know it's time to spritz this and damp it with a cloth again, and then gently peel it, because at that point the inlay will have done its job and it will be time to take the carrier sheet off and put it away for another day. Thank you for being here with me again. I will try to record the removal of the carrier sheets and put together a video for you as a guideline so that you can try any of the Iron Orchid Designs paint inlays for yourself. I actually do like these products. Thank you so much for being here with me today on the second studio session. I'll look forward to seeing you again. I will post finished pictures later, and I will post a video. Lord knows it takes a while to edit the video, so I will post it just as quickly as I can. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Diane Pruitt, and we are live in the studio at Two Girls Treasure in Florence, South Carolina. Have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon, and stay nice and cool wherever you are.